to have seen a UFO and an alien being, which is quite an extraordinary claim and has quite a lot of evidence to back it up. We'll chat with him before 12:30 today. Story. BBC Radio Nottingham. The world of science fiction is being celebrated on the television over the weekend. You know, Channel 4 got their big science fiction special. And one of the things they're going to be showing is a film which purports to show an autopsy being carried out on an alien being. And it's said to be genuine. Well, you can watch that programme for yourself on Monday, and really it's going to be for you to decide. That incident happened back in 1947. Today on the programme, we're going to be talking with somebody who witnessed what is thought to be the strongest evidence of UFO activity ever in this country. It happened in 1980, and the chap who saw it all was Larry Warren, and joins us in the studio now. Larry, hello to you.
Hi, Alan. How are you?
I'm fine. You're here with another chap, you're a researcher, compiling a book, and Peter, you've helped Larry compile the story. We have 7 minutes to tell the story. There's so much to get in. What happened and when, then, Larry?
Late December 1980, RAF Bentwaters Woodbridge, Suffolk, East Anglia, not far from the city Ipswich. I was a security policeman assigned to the 81st TAC Fighter Wing. We had a series of 3 nights of UFO, for the lack of a better word, incursions and landings outside of RAF Woodbridge, witnessed by numerous people, high-ranking down to an airman first class like I was.
So UFO activity and landings, does that mean that you saw, what, a saucer coming out of the sky? What?
I saw an object on the ground. I didn't see anything flying in the air, but I certainly saw an object on the ground. It was filmed, photographed. Radiation traces were left. Senior personnel on the base witnessed it all, including English British nationals.
So if that was the case, how come all of the people involved haven't come out and said, yep, UFOs exist, we've seen one, seen it in Suffolk, end of story?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it still all shrouded in mystery? Why are people like you, I have to say, regarded as being slightly left field, a bit cranky?
Right. Well, I find that's less true nowadays than probably people would have experienced back in the 50s and 60s, coming out with such a claim. But the best thing about this is that people have been talking ever since the events took place. And it is just a matter of them being heard by the media powers that be.
Peter, let's bring you in here. You've been involved in research of various different phenomena for a long time, and obviously when you came across Larry's story, you were interested there.
Indeed.
What have you helped Larry dig up and discover about this? Because for any of us, trying to remember a specific incident, no matter how significant, actually getting the detail and being accurate is very, very hard. Is that where you've come in?
Well, we began with dozens and dozens of hours of interviews, and in fact, I had full permission to try to catch him up in anything. My reputation rests on this as well as his. I was convinced that there was a truth here. I just wasn't sure exactly what it was. And as we dug, and in the return trips that we have made, the types and varieties of evidence, the multi-levels, the physical evidence, the historic, the multiple witnesses, civilian and military, the paper trail, all point a very damning finger at the reality of this incident. There's no question in my mind that this is the preeminent incident of its type in modern history in the UK.
So the same question to you in a way. Well, why, if there's so much evidence, is there still any question mark as to the existence of UFO? Surely if you got this story nailed as well as you have.
There isn't in the minds of the folks that have seen the evidence, the extent of the evidence, and the scholarship behind it matches the scholarship of any area of natural research. However, most folks don't seek out or don't know the sources to look for, don't have the patience, or, are busy making a living, taking care of their lives. The fact is, the evidence is there, and we will be publishing a book next year that will reveal it all relative to this case.
That book called Left at East Gate, which the two of you are putting together. Larry, let's come back to you and paint in a bit more detail then of what happened on this night that, or the various nights that the activity was going on.
All right. Briefly, the first night involved 3 security policemen. I was not involved. They were sent into the forest called Rendlesham Forest to investigate a series of lights. They thought it was a downed aircraft. They ended up encountering an object, triangular in shape. They were missing for 4 hours out of radio contact and were extremely traumatized, those 3 people. Search parties looked for them. The next night there was a series of sightings. We're rather unclear what exactly happened. And the third night is what they call the big night, where audio tape was made of the events by Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt, Film was filmed of the events of an object on the ground, numerous objects in the sky. A life form was seen by myself and others. It's not your traditional image of what these things are in modern media, but it changed my life in a matter of 45 minutes forever.
You've seen an alien?
I've seen something living that is alien to my perception of what living beings are. Absolutely.
What did that look like then?
It was very ethereal in a sense. It was there were three of these things, somewhat transparent, definitely independently animated. Thus, I assume these things were living beings. There were faces and such, but an accurate description is so frustratingly impossible, and that's where we get bottled in this field, and it sounds like a bad science fiction movie.
But, I mean, was it head, arms, legs, and body?
Well, an upper extremity I did see. The lower extremities were just so... the light in that vicinity was so bright, I couldn't make that out.
Whatever it was that was going on there, to have witnessed it must have been terrifying for you. Were you frightened? Are you still frightened by what you've seen and what it represents?
Well, Alan, I'm really not... I can't say I wasn't frightened because I'm still not sure how I really felt, because it seems somewhat surrealistic and dreamlike, and I've talked to the other witnesses that night, some of them, and they felt the same. The worst fear or any irritation that's come from this is from my government and the ensuing cover-up that's ensued. I'm known as a whistleblower, and I am not part of the Old Boy Network, and I've exposed some things that they don't want exposed in this country, especially because the people here, because of the nuclear element, are going to get very, very upset when they find out details of these events.
So this all happened in Suffolk, where there was supposedly nuclear weapons, say, for example, at Greenham Common, back in the 1980s. What you're saying is that the UFO story, if it is fully told, will bring out the extent of the nuclear proliferation that was going on at that stage as well.
Absolutely.
Is there any link, then, between nuclear installations and UFO sightings? Could it be radiation causing lights in the sky? Could it be, secret agents from another country spying on what was going on? Simple explanations like that we've obviously considered.
None of these events involved any terrestrial explanation, and that not a single witness. I mean, they tried to blame this over here, some science writer, Ian Ridpath, on a lighthouse or the lights from a police car, and none of us ever saw a lighthouse that moved, because we followed this thing, and we saw it on the ground, we saw a life form associated with it, and it caused a major uproar, not only on our base, but in the U.S. military establishment in Europe, plus a big to do with your government. And we had more nuclear weapons on those two bases than all of NATO. That was the major dump, and you folks have been lied to about it. This is what cost me my passport last year. Ramsey Clark, former Attorney General of my country under two presidents, helped us get it back.
There is this strange intertwining of the stories. Peter, bringing you back in as somebody who's worked a lot with Larry, I mean, were you involved in anything to do with the nuclear industry as an anti-nuclear protester or anything like that before you met Larry?
Oh, quite the opposite. My background is in research and the arts. I come to this rather as a Candide-type character and a straight thinker and a scrupulous researcher, as far as I'm concerned. And every single claim that Larry was on record as having made before I met him, I have established to my own satisfaction, I feel to the satisfaction of any jury to evaluate. Absolutely, it is the goods.
And you have been back, obviously, to the site. Did it chill you when you went back, Larry, and what was it like for you, Peter?
Repeatedly. It was very moving, in fact. The first time we went out to the area of forest and field where this happened, I felt like I was visiting a battlefield, a place where something happened that changed a tremendous number of lives. I've since grown quite attached to that part of East Anglia, have many friends there now. But everything about this points to the reality in no uncertain terms. There is no miasma or New Age or ethereal thinking here. It is as real as the seat that we are sitting on.
If what went on did go on, there were lights, there were alien life forms of some sort, I would expect there to have been some evidence remaining when you went back that this had happened, because it's such a major thing to have happened. Did you see anything that sort of supported what you thought you'd see?
Well, Alan, much to our surprise, especially mine, there are trace marks that are still visible to this day day, both in photographs and beyond. But we have done a series through a laboratory called Springborn in Massachusetts, United States, that their results are quite extraordinary on the soil analysis from ground zero, where this object eyewitness sat on the ground. Pete can tell you a little about that.
Yeah, the soil analysis will, of course, be fully published in our book, but briefly, the pH is blown in the soil. The field soil does not reconstitute to form mud properly. There are trace radiation backgrounds. What you would call the starch grains in the soil have been disrupted, and the sand content in the soil had been heated to such a point that it is already in a process moving toward glass.
Peter, we'll have to leave it there. That's Peter Robbins and Larry Warren. Thank you for telling us your story.
It's an honor,
given
Alan.
us something to think about as we watch the science fiction weekend on the television
Right,
this weekend.
indeed.
But a genuine UFO story there. Thank you both very much.
You're very
Thank
welcome.
And if you think you've seen something strange in the skies and you want to talk to somebody about it, there is the East Midlands UFO Research Association. They can be contacted on Nottingham 9275623. I'll give you that number later on in the programme as well. Good afternoon. It's 12:30.
BBC Radio Nottingham.
In fact, it's 12:33. Let's get it right.
Radio Nottingham News headlines with Mark McCall.